Sam's life had turned into a grind. Deadlines loomed. Creativity felt like a distant memory, and every day blurred into the next. One evening, while clearing out his late grandfather's study, something unusual caught his eye. A small, ornate wooden box, its surface covered in carvings of a ladder, waves, and an eye. He unfolded the note, his grandfather's familiar handwriting bringing a pang of nostalgia. The note read, "Follow this map to uncover the life you were meant to live." At the bottom was a cryptic message, "Begin where the shame resides." The map led Sam to an abandoned theatre, its doors creaking open as if inviting him in. Inside, a cracked mirror stood on the stage, illuminated by a faint beam of moonlight streaming through a broken window. Sam flinched at the memory. He had buried that moment, carrying its weight like an invisible chain. The mirror whispered, "Shame is the heaviest chain. To ascend, you must forgive yourself." "It's okay to make mistakes," he said. "I am more than that moment." The mirror shattered into shards of light, and one glowing fragment floated into his hand. The map shifted, revealing his next destination. The map guided Sam to a foggy bridge suspended over a deep ravine. As he stepped onto the wooden planks, the fog thickened and scenes from his past played out like projections on a screen. Sam watched the memory unfold, his stomach knotting. The fog whispered, "Guilt holds you in place. Forgiveness sets you free." "I'm sorry," Sam said. "I blamed you because I was afraid to own my mistake." The fog began to clear and a second glowing shard appeared on the bridge. Sam picked it up, the weight in his chest easing slightly. The next stop was a barren field, its soil cracked and lifeless. The air felt heavy, pressing down on Sam as he walked. Each step seemed harder than the last. He pulled out a small notebook from his bag, jotting down 3 things he once loved: sketching, hiking, and helping others. He read them aloud, his voice growing steadier with each word. Sam stood holding the shard tightly. The map reappeared in his mind, guiding him to the next destination. The journey brought Sam to a windswept cliff, the sky heavy with storm clouds and the sea raging below. The air was thick with the weight of something unfinished. On the edge of the cliff, carved into the rock, was a name, Emily. Beside it, a necklace swayed gently from a low-hanging branch, as if waiting for him. Sam reached out, his hands trembling as he picked up the necklace. Memories of his sister came flooding back. Her laughter that could brighten the darkest day, her endless kindness, and the deep ache of her absence that he had tried so hard to bury. The storm seemed to echo his grief, the howling wind and crashing waves reflecting the pain he had held inside for so long. A whisper seemed to rise from the storm itself. "Grief shows you what you love most. Let the storm pass." "Emily," Sam whispered, "I've missed you every day. I'll honor your memory by living fully, by living the life you always encouraged me to." The storm quieted, and the 4th shard emerged from the sand. Sam bent down, picking up the shard with a steady hand. This time it felt lighter, like the weight of his grief had finally started to lift, his heart lighter. As he turned back to the map, the next destination began to reveal itself. The final challenge stood before him, a massive wooden door, claw marks etched into its surface. The word fear loomed above in jagged letters. Shadowy figures circled him, their whispers growing louder. "You'll fail. Turn back, it's too much." Sam hesitated, fear gripping him. But then he remembered his grandfather's words. "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it." Taking a deep breath, he placed both hands on the door and pushed. As Sam pushed against the massive wooden door, the shadows around him began to shift and dissolve, melting into streams of light that filled the space. With a low, resonant creak, the door slowly opened, revealing what lay beyond. On the other side, sunlight poured in, golden and warm, illuminating a simple pedestal in the center of the room. Resting on the pedestal was the final shard, its glow radiating like a beacon of hope. With trembling hands, Sam placed the shard with the others, completing the map. It glowed brightly, revealing one last clue: return to where you began. Back in his grandfather's study, the map guided Sam to the ornate box. This time inside it lay a mirror. But instead of shame, guilt, or fear, his reflection smiled back, unburdened. As Sam stood in his grandfather's study, the room began to shift. All around him, glowing fragments of his past appeared, vivid memories of joy, resilience, and growth. He saw himself overcoming challenges, sharing laughter with loved ones, and moments where his strength shone brightest. The mirror in his hands began to glow, and slowly words etched themselves onto its surface. The treasure is within. Sam stared at his reflection, finally understanding that the journey wasn't about finding something external. It was about reclaiming the pieces of himself he had thought were lost. Sam realized the journey wasn't about finding riches, but about reclaiming himself. The shards were pieces of his soul, reunited at last. Months later, Sam stood on a brightly lit stage, the faces of the audience glowing with anticipation. In his hands he held the map. Its light, once radiant, now glowed dim but steady, like a quiet reminder of the journey he had taken. He raised the map slightly, his voice calm yet filled with conviction. "I thought this map would lead me to treasure," he said, letting his gaze sweep across the crowd. "And it did, but not the kind I was expecting. The treasure wasn't gold or riches. The greatest treasure isn't something you find, it's the freedom you feel when you let go of what holds you back. It was the freedom to let go, to embrace my flaws, my pain, my truth." For what seemed like an eternity, the audience sat in silence, the weight of his words sinking in. And then a thunderous applause erupted throughout the crowd. Sam smiled, holding the map close, its steady glow mirroring the sense of peace that now filled him. As the applause faded, Sam stepped out of the theatre and into the warmth of the afternoon sunlight. The air felt different, lighter, freer, as if the weight he had carried for so long had finally lifted. Above him, a bird soared gracefully, its wings cutting through the bright blue sky. Sam watched as its shadow danced across the ground, forming the shape of a compass, a quiet reminder of the journey he had taken and the path he had found within himself. With a deep breath, Sam smiled, his steps steady and purposeful as he walked forward into the next chapter of his life. The map wasn't a guide to treasure, it was a journey to freedom, and now Sam was free.